What's up, guys? Welcome to the latest edition of the JTM. Now, video version for you guys who are listening on audio right now. Appreciate you just as much as I always do, but we're going to consistently get the YouTube going. I finally got my tripod, so we should have some clips being uploaded as well. Just as you guys saw last week with the Not My Fault podcast, we had two pretty crazy clips where me and Spencer had some pretty big disagreements. But that's what I wanted to start off the podcast today with. It is those disagreements. If you guys didn't see last week's episode of Not My Fault or these two arguments, you can go check out the clips and the full episode all on, Apple, Spotify, the usual. But now they're on YouTube as well, specifically those two clips. I also put them up as Instagram TVs, IG TVs, whatever you want to call them. But the main thing is, me and Spencer had a big disagreement on Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum, and then also Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul. And hey, this isn't the entire population of the world, but I put up two Twitter polls, and yes, it is my followers, so they probably, you could say they might have maybe similar views to me because they follow me, but I retweeted it on other accounts. I wanted to get as much engagement as possible. We got 17 votes on both polls, and it was 71% to 29% on Jimmy Butler being better than Jason Tatum on defense, and then for Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook on creating shots for others, Chris Paul won 65 to 35. And I thought the polls were actually pretty indicative because I think that there's a bigger gap on defense between Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum, but I think that gap is a little bit smaller between Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook. Do I still think that there's really much of an argument? Me personally, no. Just with what we've seen Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook do by themselves, yes, when Westbrook is beside a star and an offensive threat like James Harden, he's going to be better at getting the ball to others because there's a lot of focus on James Harden and himself, for that matter. I don't want to take that away from him, but I just think that what Chris Paul has done with the Thunder this year by himself, and what he's done, even so this year, I know we were talking about right now, and I was just about to reference, obviously, whole career, it's Chris Paul. I don't think really most people would argue that. But even this season, I just think what Chris Paul has done to run that Thunder offense and set his teammates up is more impressive than what Russ has done this year, because Chris is doing it, well, yes, he has young, future stars and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's really it. I mean, he has Gallo, who's a certified bucket, and then he's got Steven Adams, and then, Andre Roberson and Dennis Schroeder. There's some other shooters on there, like Abdel Nader can make some shots and some other guys, but not, top-tier guys. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the closest thing he has to a star, and that's still nothing. Like, he's not even, I love Shai, but he's not even in the same stratosphere as James Harden yet. So, notice I say yet, because I think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can be a superstar one day. Right now, no, that's not the case. But yeah, I just think what Chris Paul has done this year is just straight up more impressive. But as you guys have probably already seen by the title, and you see in my attire, my 2014 NBA champions, little Larry O'Brien, that LOB right there, San Antonio Spurs shirt, as well as my San Antonio Spurs hat. The only positive thing about this video in my fandom right now is my LSU national championship flag in the back, because the Spurs missed the playoffs for the first time in 22 years after the Phoenix Suns and the Memphis Grizzlies demolished their opponents. And all I can do is sit here and think about Giannis Antetokounmpo headbutting Mo, how do you say his last name? Mo Wagner. I was about to say Wagner. That's not how you say it. It's Mo Wagner. But yeah, I just think about that, and I'm like, really, man? Really? You could have done it to Bradley Beal, any other person, any other team, but you did it against one of the Washington Wizards' bench players, one of the most irrelevant players in the NBA, Mo Wagner. That's who you headbutted? That's what got you suspended for one game against the Grizzlies? Not that it would have mattered anyway, because Dame ended up pulling it out against the Brooklyn Nets, which we can definitely get into. I mean, I was over at my friend's house last night, and we were cheering on Karis LeVert. We were like, do it to him, Karis. He had that last shot, man. If Karis LeVert would have sent him home, I would have been dying. That would have been just, I would have felt bad for Dame, but also I wouldn't, because that would have been hilarious. With that being said, now it is the Grizzlies and the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Suns went 8-0 just to not make the playoffs. That's very sad. That's very sad. But, it is what it is. I'm actually not mad. Obviously I'm sad. I'm not mad. But I'm really not. I'm not in as much distraught as I thought I would be. Because when I look at how these 8 games played out, we played way better than I thought we were going to. I thought we had no chance of getting to the playoffs. You guys can go look at the JTM and some of the episodes that I've done. I thought there was no chance of getting to the playoffs at all. But we made it to the final day. And if we would have ended up pulling that game out, which I think we would have if we played Derek, DeMar, and Rudy, who I think we're going to play, if we wouldn't have known about those 2 wins, like say one of those teams lost, say like if Mo Wagner never gets headbutted by Giannis, right? I can't believe I'm saying this right now. And just the fact that that's what it came down to, maybe, I don't know, who knows, maybe they would have sat Giannis and the Grizz would have won anyway. But if Giannis plays that, just even for a couple quarters, and the Grizzlies end up losing, and then it's only the Suns, and then maybe Karis LeVert hits that shot, and we win, which I think we will, with DeMar, and, it came down, it was really close. It could have been really close, and we had a shot of getting there, and that honestly makes me so happy. And the way that we played throughout this bubble, ball movement, letting the young guys, just show their talents, and especially fast breaks. That is something that the Spurs have been 5 years behind on for about 5 years. So maybe even longer than that. So the fact that we were doing that using our strengths, and it got us wins. We went 5-3 against some of the best teams in the NBA. Yes, that's not great, but the fact that we were doing it with mainly a bunch of under 25-year-olds makes me very happy and very confident in the Spurs' future. I think that Keldon Johnson has the highest ceiling on this team. That was my biggest takeaway from this. DeJounte is always going to be an elite defender. He just needs to get more consistent on the offensive side of the ball. Derek White needs to consistently be hitting those 3-point jumpers. If he's doing that, that is going to be nasty, let me tell you. And Keldon Johnson, with his rebounding ability, on top of him just having the highest potential, he looked great as a shooter. Going into yesterday's game, he was shooting 70%, specifically 0.714% from 3-point land during the bubble. That's ridiculous. I love that as a Spurs fan, considering that he's our rookie and he's 20 years old. And I could go on and on and on a lot of these young guys. Lonnie's 3-point shot looks a little bit better. He's had some good games. He had a deep 3 in one of the games, either this last game yesterday or the game before. I can't remember. But he had some struggles, but he got better passing. When he was struggling, he was moving the ball, he was playing within himself, and he still made some shots when we needed him to. Also, another huge thing about the Spurs, DeMar. If DeMar plays like that, and I think it's because of the ball movement, then I don't mind him staying on the team. Because there were games where he had 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, and he played great, in my opinion. He did what he needed to do. He stayed within his limitations, and he did what was best for the team. That's the type of stand-up guy that DeMar is. DeMar's stock went through the roof for me after this bubble. It makes me think that us just stopping the ball when we dish it down to LaMarcus, yeah, he's a good player and he's extended his range, but I just feel like he stops the ball too much, and which therefore hinders the rest of our team. That was kind of my takeaway from the bubble, so I hope that we can find, a home for him, a trade for him. Honestly, what I would love, and people may not like this, but I think that this would help out the team, Hassan Whiteside for LaMarcus Aldridge. Let LaMarcus Aldridge go home, play with Dame. They've still got Nurkic. They've still got CJ McCollum. We'll take on that Whiteside contract. He'll be better for us. I don't know if that works straight up. I'm willing to throw in a couple other picks. I'm willing to throw in Bryn Forbes, Marco Bellinelli. Nobody that they'd want. No. But Yeah, I could go through this in a much more in-depth episode. I think I'll make a little off-season episode talking about who I want the Spurs to keep. But for this episode, just wanted to talk about my takeaways from the bubble for the most part. And really, it sucks that we didn't make the playoffs, but to be honest, assuming Portland wins and they don't lose 2 games to the Grizzlies, that's going to be a much more fun series to watch than the Spurs versus the Lakers. Like, maybe. And this is on like a 5% chance the Spurs end up getting 1 game from the Lakers. Do I really think that would happen? No. I think it'd be a sweep. Even with the difference between us and the Warriors a few years back was that we had Manu on the team, and Manu will win you a game whether you like it or not. I don't know if I can say that about anybody on the Spurs roster right now if we're playing the Lakers. Maybe DeMar gets us one, but I don't think that's happening. So it's going to be much more fun with the Blazers. I think the Blazers can take them to 6 games. In fact, that's my prediction for the first round of the West, is that the Lakers will beat the Portland Trail Blazers in 6. But I'm not going to get into any more predictions. I'm going to keep it clean. We're going to keep it short. I don't want to take too much of y'all's time. And really, that kind of wraps things up. But that last segment previews into the next episode that I will be doing. I don't know if I'll do one on here. I don't think that I will now that I think about it. But stay tuned on Sunday for the Not My Fault episode with myself and Connor McKinnon. We will be going through every team, every round, and all of our predictions for the NBA playoffs before they start, and we'll see how we do at the end of the year. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. First YouTube episode. I think we got a couple clips in there as well that we'll be putting up. But if you guys are tuning in right now on YouTube, or if you're just on audio, shout out to you, man. I truly appreciate it. You guys supporting me, just listening. I mean, you don't have to do this. So the fact that you're taking your time out of your day to watch this or listen really means a lot. So much love to you guys. Hope you're all safe. Hope you got a lot of peace. Got a lot of calmness in this crazy time, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together. Much love to you guys. Catch y'all later.